Hello and welcome to the Sky Sports Football Euros podcast, where we're building up to the big kickoff. I'm Peter Smith, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Sky Sports pundit Gary Neville. How are you, Gary?
Very good, very good. It's a bit warm here in Manchester, which is unusual.
Yeah, don't complain. Gary, it's been delayed by a year. There's been some changes to some venues, and there's still some fan restrictions in place. But how exciting is it that the Euros are finally about to get underway on Friday?
No, it is. I mean, major tournaments are a fantastic thing, but also I think they bring all the whole country together. Everyone thinks about England for that month. Hopefully, it's a month. The last tournament in Moscow was absolutely sensational. I was over there for a month, and the atmosphere was brilliant. But also, the England performance was fantastic, and we know how much that lifts the nation. And the last 12 months have been difficult for everybody. I hope that on June 21st that the government stick to the plan and that we can have full stadiums leading up to the final. And I do really feel confident about this summer because I think England in a major tournament at home, I know it's not at home, but it is for England in the most part. We know that has brought great success in the past in '66 and a brilliant tournament in '96 as well, which I was part of. So really looking forward to it. Can't wait for it to start, and it's exciting.
Well, let's touch on England then, Gary, because warm-up games are done, wins over Austria and Romania. The final squad's decided with Ben White coming in for Trent Alexander-Arnold, who unfortunately picked up that injury. So how do you assess their chances? What are the strengths and weaknesses of Gareth Southgate's squad?
I think the strengths are the talented players that we've got in the forward part of the pitch. I think we've got really good fullbacks. I think we really have to think about the centre-back pairing stroke the back three. I think that's going to be where the real conundrum is for Gareth and the squad, is how they adapt between potentially a back five and a back four from game to game. Strength of opposition will obviously matter in that on that front as well. But obviously losing Harry Maguire, I think me and Carragher had a heated debate on Monday Night Football, was it nearly 6 to 8 weeks ago now, where I said that I felt Harry Maguire was the most important player in the squad, and that's taken into consideration. I think Harry Kane's the best player. I just think that if Harry Kane got injured, there are options that would mean that England would suffer, but not as much as if they were to lose Harry Maguire at centre-back. I think losing Harry Maguire at centre-back means that now Gareth Southgate's bringing Ben White in. It means that he's probably going to have to go to a back three. It means the whole shape of the team changes. I don't think there's a natural partner that would be strong enough in the really big games in this tournament to partner John Stones. So I think for me, that is the sort of big thing. How far is Harry Maguire away? When can they get him fit? How are they going to get him fit mid-tournament now? Which is always difficult and always proven to be difficult in the past when a major player comes back from injury into a high-level tournament when everyone's at peak fitness. So to me, they're the real concerns that I have in around the defence and how England adapt without obviously their main centre-back.
This is it, Gary, isn't it? Well, you get excited about these exciting, young, creative forward players, but we saw at the 2018 World Cup that defence and set pieces was really this foundation to England's success there. With that in mind, and obviously the injury to Maguire, do we expect maybe Southgate to maybe err on the side of caution then and perhaps protect that area of the pitch where there's that injury and that weakness?
I think Gareth will be pragmatic in certain games anyway, understanding that when you play against France or Belgium, teams of that quality, that you're not going to dominate the ball as much. You are going to be out of possession, and that you have to make sure that you maintain a strong defence. That's not to say that you don't try and win the game, but winning the game through set pieces or through counter-attack or through moments in the game is obviously a different proposition to dominating the ball and controlling the game. So I think for me, England, because of that, of those centre, I think even if Harry Maguire and John Stones were at centre back, I think that they would have to, in certain games, be a little bit more defensive and less proactive in the play. But that to me has always been the same. You just have to adapt, and it's horses for courses. But I just think at the moment, you're right. I think that the two central midfield players will have to. I think Rice and Phillips. I know Henderson obviously played 45 minutes yesterday. I think they've got big jobs to do. I don't think we'll be seeing creative players in the centre of that midfield at any point in the tournament. I think those two players will be there really to sit in front of those back two or back three players, so that you've got the platform to build from, and hope that those talented players that we have up front will deliver.
Yeah, if that's going to be the case, you want Harry Kane really sharp, of course. Speculation about his future leading into this tournament. how much of a distraction is it? Obviously, your experience as a player in camps, as a coach in camps, how can it affect players, and how do England make sure they get the best out of Harry over the next month?
I think if it was a player who sought the attention, who, to be fair, was emotional about it, I think it would cause a big problem. This is not even going to, Harry Kane's not even going to break stride. Gareth Southgate's not even going to concern himself about it for 1 second, because Harry Kane is a complete professional, totally focused. He will not consider his future during this tournament. He'll know how big this tournament is for himself and his country, and he loves his country. So I would say that if it was a player that was more emotional, more heavily scrutinised in the media, no, Harry's not really. I mean, he's a big personality, but he's so stable, so secure in the way in which he goes about things. Alan Shearer had sort of tournaments where he had this sort of speculation hanging over him, and I'd put them in the same category as sort of ice cold. They will do their jobs. They'll not let things affect them. And I just think Gareth Southgate, myself, as sort of working with Harry with England and sort of knowing him a little bit, would never in a million years think that I wouldn't be concerned one bit around distraction ahead of this tournament. It will not cause England a problem. He'll be absolutely determined to go and win this tournament for his country.
Obviously, that speculation isn't going to go away. But another thing that fans and pundits might speculate on is a topic that came up in 2018 World Cup, finishing second in your group and getting a more sympathetic pathway or easier pathway through to the later stages. Similar situation this time, where if England win their group, they're going to play the runners-up from the Portugal, France, Germany or Hungary group. If they finish as runners-up in their group, they'll play the runners-up of Spain, Sweden, Slovakia or Poland. Is that room for that pragmatic approach in Southgate's thinking among his coaching staff, or is it just chat that we have?
It's honestly, it's chat. It's impossible. It's impossible before 3 games to know what the other teams are going to do, to know what you're going to have to do to finish second. That means you're going to have to finish second, have drawn a game on purpose or lost a game. So this is not going to happen. It may happen through sort of what will be the natural flow and kick of the ball, but it's not going to happen through design. England were very fortunate in the last tournament to have a good draw and a good pathway all the way through to even Croatia in the semi-final. You think about Sweden, Colombia was a really good sort of part. Even though they're difficult games, every game's difficult. It's obviously a lot easier than the potential other big nations that you would have played. But you can't design these things. Teams in the past that have thought about this, who've got caught up on this, I don't know many that have, will end up losing. No, it's not going to be anything in Gareth Southgate's mind. I mean, obviously from our point of view, as fans, we'd love the easiest path, path of least resistance right the way through to a semi-final or a final, to give England the best chance. And playing sort of France or Portugal or Germany or these types of nations early in the tournament is always going to cause you a problem. We had that in '98 where we played Argentina, second phase, and you end up really in trouble quite early. And we got knocked out. And I think obviously you could have argued that was because we lost games in the group phase that meant that we played Argentina. So you can't design these things. They're impossible to think about as a player and a coach, but as a fan we can hope that we get an easier run forward than obviously the sort of path that looks like it would be if we were to win the group.
Well, either way, want a fast start against Croatia, I'm sure, in that opening group game. Mixed history with them. Big win over them at Euro 2004 really stands out. There were those qualifying defeats under Steve McLaren for Euro 2008. Capello got the better of them a couple of times. And then obviously we lost in that semi-final at the World Cup before England won 2-1 at Wembley in the Nations League the last time the teams met. But just Croatia, they're a smaller nation by population, aren't they? But they just keep on producing these really talented, particularly midfield players that are so good on the eye and can cause so many problems.
Yeah, producing talented players is one thing, but also having a real spirit for the nation, for their country. Mm-hmm. I was part of Euro 96 where Croatia, I think their fans burst onto the scene. It was the first time I think that we'd ever seen them in the tournament, and it was an incredible thing. And Davor Suker was playing for them then, again, an incredibly talented player. They've always had talented players. Obviously, beating England in a World Cup semi-final 3 years ago now. I was there, big disappointment, but they just were better. As the game grew, the game sort of travelled forwards towards the end. The midfield did get on top. They started to switch the play. They started to wear us down. They're experienced. They love their country. They're spirited. They're a group of, forget the 5 million population. That really is irrelevant. They really have a fantastic group of players who, want to be desperately doing well for their country. And it's a really tough opener for England. This is not going to be an easy game at all. I don't think anyone thinks it is going to be, but it's a really tough opener.
Yeah, and I saw their game against Belgium the other night, and Luka Modric, he's still got that quality on the ball, and he's just a world-class player, isn't he? And a real player that England are going to have to deal with.
You just got a player who's seen every game, seen every situation, who knows that he's composed at the right moment. And that's a problem for England in the sense that if that moment in the game comes where it's a draw with 10 minutes to go and Modric is in around that sort of last third, he's the one that will thread that pass. He's the one who will put that ball into the box. He will win that free kick and then take it, and these players are game changers. The players that you can't stop. I remember, I think it was 98, we played against an ageing Georgie Hadji for Romania, and we ended up really disappointing result. Glenn Hoddle's time with England. When you have these great players, even if it's just one in a team, they can make a massive difference to the rest of the group around them because they just thrive off them. And that's what Modric does for Croatia. They just absolutely, he's adored, not just in his own country, but around Europe and admired. So, yeah, absolutely a big danger to England and one that needs stuffing out, really badly. They need to get a grip of that midfield.
With England obviously playing a lot of games at Wembley, going to be comparisons with Euro 96. Back then, the second group game was Scotland. Second group game this time around is against Scotland. Gary, just tell us how that sort of propelled that Euro 96 team to do so well at that tournament 25 years ago now. And can it have the same impact now?
Yeah, the first game against Switzerland we drew, and it was a real disappointing start, and we had a really bad press for a week leading up to the Scotland game, and then we played against Scotland at Wembley, and again we suffered badly. I mean, Scotland missed a penalty. They played really well in the game. People always remember, the Gaza celebration, obviously, but the Gaza goal just lit up the tournament for us. It lit up the whole of, I would imagine, Europe and the world at that time. It's such a special goal, such a big moment. The crowd, the atmosphere was absolutely sensational. And we've got players that can do that in Foden and Grealish, Rashford, Sterling, Kane. We've got brilliant players who could light up this tournament, who can deliver in that one moment and light a whole nation up. And that's what we need so badly this summer. People question at the moment how do Mount, Grealish, Foden, Sterling, Rashford all fit into this sort of team. Sancho, how do they all fit into an 11? But the good thing is we've got these players now and we've got them in abundance and they're really talented. And you put Harry Kane up there at to really be the central focus of the attack. And they've got that experience and that strength around them. That there's a massive opportunity for us if we can just keep stable at the back, with the goalkeeper in the back line, the two lads in midfield, and we get the ball into good areas to the likes of Grealish and Foden, Sterling, etc. We've got a big chance because these players can do things that, to be fair, I wouldn't put them on comparison. You can't put them on comparison with Ronaldo's and Messi's and these types of players. Nowhere near, because they're young and they haven't proven it yet. But they can deliver moments that, to be fair, will take them into that stratosphere in the next 5-10 years if they can deliver on this type of stage consistently.
When you talk about those Euro 96 memories and when we look back now at the pictures, it just seemed a little bit alien given that we've had last 12 months or more locked down and, separated from people, not going to big football games in big crowds. Do you think there is a chance then we could get this romantic summer where England play well with sunshines and the whole nation is lifted by this tournament?
We're usually lifted by a tournament. I mean, sometimes it's short-lived, but we're always lifted by a tournament. We're always lifted by the hope and the feeling that something is going to happen, something special is going to happen. Every country should feel the same. And like you say, that summer of 96 was so special. Thousands of fans lining the streets when the coach was on its way to Wembley. We fell short in the end, which is sort of a massive disappointment still to this day for myself and all the lads who have been part of that squad and the coaching team. But what a time it was. It was an absolutely brilliant time. I just hope, like you say, with everything that's happened these last 12 months, I hope that we can unlock in the next couple of weeks. I hope the fans can flood back into Wembley in the tens of thousands. And we can create that atmosphere that will spur those lads on to produce something extraordinary, which I think is what, they're capable of it. I think they're capable of it because they've got the confidence of Moscow, of a lot of them of playing in that sort of World Cup semi-final. They want to do it again. They want to be in that position again so they can, this time capitalise on it. And it's special playing in home tournament. This is the last time that these lads are ever probably going to play in a tournament in England. It's very unlikely that there'll be one in England in the next 5-10 years. So for a lot of these lads, this is it. This is the moment. I always remember Stuart Pearce saying to me, "This is as good as it gets." And at the time, I was 21 years of age and thinking, "No, that can't be right." But he was right. It was as good as it got for England because it was a home tournament. Fans passionate, behind the teams. The spirit in the group was brilliant. Fantastic group of players we had as well. And this group of players are fantastic. I just hope that Maguire and Henderson doesn't become a distraction, and they can get fit quite quickly, and they can really sort of hit the ground running when they get back into the team.
Well, they're also going to have to overcome some really talented players and talented teams to make those sort of dreams a reality. Away from England, which teams and players are you most looking forward to seeing?
I can't look past France, really. I just can't. I just think that the experience, the winning mentality, the personalities they've got, the explosive pace and goals, clever, intelligent. You think they could play in any type of game, that French team. They could play against a team that was sort of more direct. They could play against a team that sat off them. They could play against a team that tried to control possession. I think they could live in any. It's an adaptable team. It's a team that I don't think would concern itself with whoever they were playing. Physically, I think they're strong. Mentally, they're strong. They've got confidence, and they're going to be. I think if you finish in front of France, you're winning it. Is my view. They're the best team in the tournament.
Yeah. Can England finish in front of France?
I'm going to say yes. It would take one extraordinary effort, a lot of luck, things to go their way. But I'm going to say that in a Wembley Stadium full of English fans, at the right moment in the tournament, on the right day, we saw Chelsea do Manchester City last week in the Champions League. So if you think that was very unlikely to most people before the game, then that could certainly happen.
Yeah, and certainly at the Euros, it's a competition where we do see some surprise winners from time to time as well, don't we?
Yeah, I don't think England would be a shock and a surprise. I mean, I think England getting to a World Cup semi-final 3 years ago, is something that I think this England team, there is expectation on them. They're not sort of going there thinking, well, hope we do quarters. I think there is an expectation because of what they did 3 years ago. The fact that the players are there with talent that we have. I mean, the question is over Harry Maguire, but looking at it at the moment, I'd be saying that the expectation in the group itself, the group of players, England players, should be to get to semi-finals and finals, because that's what they're used to. They're used to getting to a semi-final. They've lived in that sort of World Cup in Moscow, and they've been there, and they'll be thinking they can do it again.
Yeah, exciting month ahead. Gary, thanks very much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.